Awesome. All right, so I will begin. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first FISPAN Women in FinTech Paying It Forward event. My name is Meghan Wright. My pronouns are she, her, and I'll be the mediator for this event. I am the new graduate in strategy here at FISPAN, and I was in many of your positions last year, finishing up my final year at Queen's University to complete my degree and in search of my first career opportunity. So we would first like to acknowledge that the land on which our offices operate is on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. So I will now pass it to Claudia Ivanova, the head of human resources, who is also a previous co-op and will introduce FISPAN. She will also be included on the Q&A at the end of the session if any of you have any questions regarding recruiting.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. And hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Ivanova. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the head of human resources at FISPAN. I'm very excited to be with you all here today to help showcase FISPAN and listen to our fantastic panelists later on. But first, I wanted to tell you all a little bit about our company. FISPAN is the market leader in ERP banking. Our turnkey platform makes it's simple for banks to offer business banking services embedded in any business application. FISPAN powers best-in-class commercial banking experiences by removing friction and adding value to how the bank's clients operate their business. We were founded by Lisa Shields, a leader in the FinTech and payments industry in 2016, and we have grown to over 120 employees worldwide with 2 office spaces in downtown Vancouver. We also have employees all over Canada, including Vancouver, Victoria, Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, and Halifax, as well as in countries like Ireland, the UK, and Ukraine. And a little bit about what we offer our employees. We provide 4 weeks vacation from day 1, a comprehensive health and dental plan, and 2 free lunches every week, among other perks. Now, a little bit about who we are hiring and looking for. FISPAN actually started its co-op program in 2017 and has continued to grow into the expansive program that we have today. We typically hire between 15 and 20 students per cycle who are looking for real work experience. And we're ranging from 4 to 12-month terms, and we also have a high rate of successful co-ops who have joined our team full-time after finishing school. And this year, we've also added our new graduate program aimed at students who have just graduated from their respective programs and are looking to either get their first job or a stepping stone in a new industry. And then finally, we recruit for junior, intermediate, and senior roles in all departments as well. We currently have a lot of open positions on the engineering and sales teams, but next year, we're expecting a 50% growth in all departments across the organization. So with that being said, I hope that this event will interest you all in FISPAN, and I hope to see your applications soon. But if you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to do so. But without further ado, I'll pass it back to Megan to kick us off.
Awesome. Thank you, Claudia. So this event will highlight the unique opportunities and challenges women face in this industry, as well as what it takes to build a successful career in FinTech as a woman. So here at FISPAN, we want to continue to grow our teams to be even more diverse as we expand during our hypergrowth. So during the event, feel free to drop any questions using the Q&A feature, so you can ask the panelists any questions. We will also have Gurpreet Athwal, HR Operations Specialist, sending a question for participants during the event as well, so look out for that. And if we don't have time to get to all the questions at the end, we will make sure to address them after the event. So moving forward, I'm super excited to introduce the 3 panelists that will be discussing their experiences as women in tech and how they got to where they are today. So we have Claire Robinson, Jenna Bains, and Kelly Morales, and I will let each of them give an introduction of themselves, and I will start with Jenna.
Thank you, Megan. So hi, everybody. I'm Jenna. I've been working at FISPAN for 1 year now. This was my first job after graduating last year. I first got hired as an intern for 4 months, and after that, I was hired as a full-time software developer. I first started my journey into tech at UBC. So out of high school, I didn't know what to do. I ended up doing a Bachelor of Science, didn't give it much thought. After completing that, I was still lost about what career to go into. I came across the second degree program at UBC, the BCS degree. So basically you get a Bachelor of Computer Science in 2 years and it teaches you the fundamentals of coding. So I did a little more research, and my biggest motivation to enter this program was the endless opportunity after. There are tons of ways to make a difference in this industry and so many ways to be involved. I'm a coder. I enjoyed the challenges, creativity, learning experiences that come with this job. I also like how it gives me career flexibility. But if you can't picture yourself as a coder, that's okay. Tech jobs are available in every sector. There's not just one way to be involved in this tech industry. So yeah, after graduating UBC, I was able to land my first job here at FISPAN, and it's been an awesome experience.
That's great to hear. Love hearing about your initial introduction into tech. So I'll move forward to Claire.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. My name is Claire Robinson, and I am a senior project manager here at FISPAN. So I've been here for just over 2 years now. I started as a project coordinator and have now moved on to be a project manager, which is super exciting. Unlike Jenna, I do not have the university qualifications that necessarily fit this job. I actually have a bachelor's of kinesiology with a minor in commerce, so somewhat unrelated to the field that I've ended up in. But I came from a very early stage startup previously and have now joined FISPAN, which is a bit of a later stage, much later. And I'm very excited to be here and speaking on this panel.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claire. And finally, Kelly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Morales. I'm the creative director here in FISPAN. Well, as Claire also said, I'm not technically in the tech background either. I studied film back in Colombia. And but somehow I ended up doing design, animation, and that later I decided to go to Argentina to study a little bit of web design to understand better how it works. And that's how I started working as a designer back in Colombia. I was then a creative director there. And then I moved here to Canada to study a little bit of web development. And yeah, while I was here in school, I met Lisa and Val during one of these Women in Tech events. And here I am, almost 3 years later. I'm here as part of this team, and yeah, I'm really excited to be part of this event as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, you all have such unique introductions into the tech world, so that's great to hear. So moving into some other questions, what barriers did you encounter entering this field? And I can start with Claire.
Great. So I think in terms of barriers, the main barrier for me was technical knowledge. And touching on what Jenna said earlier, this was a huge mental barrier for me when I entered this field, simply because when you think you're entering tech, you think that everyone is a developer or is familiar with technology and all of the ins and outs. And I really wasn't. But that's okay, because that's not necessarily the case. As Claudia mentioned, we're now 120 people, and I'm going to get the number wrong, but we're probably about 30 developers, if not less, because FISPAN as a company needs all of the various departments that any company needs. And one of them, not to be diminished, is our development department for sure. But there is still the delivery department, the marketing department, the creative department, all of that still plays a role. So barrier was definitely technical knowledge, and I'd like to think that I've improved my technical knowledge, although the developers might think a bit differently. But I think the way that I really overcame that barrier was just kind of realizing that there is a lot of value to add to a tech company, aside from being directly involved in the development process.
Awesome. That was a great answer. And I will move on to Kelly.
I think that, yeah, I agree with Claire as well. I think that the barrier is pretty much put on on yourself. Like if you really want to be part of the top of the list as a candidate when you apply for a job, I think you have to work a lot on yourself, like invest a lot in education to learn new things that come out like in the market. And so when you have like a really good profile, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, woman, man, it doesn't matter. If you really have all the qualifications to do the job, it's all good. So I think that barriers are mostly like that. For me, when I got here to Canada, I think the biggest barrier, I guess, it would be like a language, and it was a totally different country for me. So I think that that would be the barrier, when you are from not from the same country that you were born. And I found some difficulties when I was applying because of the type of visa I had. So, but other than that, if you have like good qualifications and all the knowledge and you keep studying, I don't think there will be like a barrier that stops you from getting where you want to be.
Yeah, it's all great points, and we really appreciate your insight. And finally, Jenna.
My biggest barrier was finding my first job after graduating. It was tough for me because I didn't have co-op experience, and a lot of my peers, they had that experience under their belt. So I do recommend getting co-op experience if you can, just because you learn so much. It gives you a better idea of what the industry is like. It also gives you confidence. However, if you don't get the chance, don't be discouraged, because your greatest strength and your focus should be on networking. Meet as many people as you can and just be honest about your level of experience. For me, networking was key. I was able to get a referral when applying to FISPAN, and that landed me the interview. And from there, I took it from there. But if you're willing to work hard and just keep improving yourself, things will work out. So yeah, just finding my first job was hard, but it works out as long as you try.
Awesome, Jenna. Thank you so much. And to kind of piggyback on that kind of conversation, what are some ways to stand out during the hiring process? And we can just have you go right ahead and answer that one too.
Sure. Yeah. So just highlight the things that you are good at on your resume, highlighting your experience, any projects that you've worked on. Personal projects are obviously really great, but because if you're in school and you don't find that you have that much time, still include your academic projects because it gives you something to talk about in your interview. And also I would say, yeah, just being honest and just show your willingness to learn, because in the tech industry, like Kelly, you mentioned, like it's always changing. So you have to have that, you have to always be ready to learn and have that ambition. So just highlighting that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we can jump to Claire.
Yeah, I think my biggest tip would be to try and be authentic. So a lot of the times when I am conducting an interview, I'm not asking a question for any specific answer. I'm really just asking a question to get you to talk, to get to know you as a person, kind of behind the interview, because it's super nerve-wracking. And especially we've been doing a lot of interviews over Zoom, which has its benefits, but it's also challenging. So I would just recommend that really try and calm the nerves and try and just portray who you are, because often we get a lot of resumes, especially from students just graduating, that look very similar. You all have the same experience, you're all coming from the same program, so it's hard to differentiate between them. But really what can differentiate you is your actual interview and how you come across, and really just portraying who you are as a person helps us to, think back on the interview and think that was actually a really enjoyable discussion. There's a lot of back and forth. I feel like I really got to know the person, which helps you stand out in the process, in my opinion.
Awesome. Yeah, those connections are definitely key. And finally, Kelly.
Yeah, all those points were like really good. I will add that for me, it's really important when people show passion about what they do. If you show that you really love, for example, design, you can show off that during the interview and in a portfolio. So I'll tell people always show off, show the best work that you have. It doesn't have to be all the projects that you have done in your life, just show the best. And always show that you have more work outside of school projects. That shows the interviewer that you really love what you do, and you show like things that you done during your free time, your own personal time. You really show off your passion about that. So yeah, I think that passion, showing the best work that you have done, and yeah, and keep educating yourself for the new things that come out every day. So yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely agree that being passionate about what you do is really important, especially when you're looking for your career in the future. Awesome. So for our next question, what did you wish you knew before entering this field? And we can start with Claire.
Yeah, I think I wish I knew, and I'm almost taking it one step back. So what I wish I knew when I was starting out in my career, and then also what I wish I knew when I was entering this field, is that most people don't know everything. There's a few exceptions for sure, but it is all right to not know everything all the time. It's all right to ask questions. It's all right to keep learning. I'm 2 years into FISPAN, and I do not think I'm exaggerating when I say that I literally learn something new every day, because there's so many different facets. But that's okay, and that's part of the process. And if you treat that as less of a challenge and more of an opportunity, like I get to learn something new every day, I get to challenge myself and put myself in uncomfortable positions, knowing that I'm going to go into this and probably make a mistake and probably not know the answer to a question. It kind of makes the whole process more enjoyable. And the truth of the matter is, most people are in the same position. Most people will get on a call and still kind of grip the side of their chair when, a difficult question is asked and you don't know the answer, even the most senior people. So I wish that I had a better appreciation for that starting out, because that's just a pressure that you put on yourself that really doesn't need to be there, because even people 40 years into their career, I think, are feeling the same thing.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially as someone new. I feel like I'm always learning something new every day. Awesome. I will jump to Jenna next.
I agree with Claire, like she said, just putting a lot of pressure on yourself. I also wish I knew how important experience is. You don't really need to rush to graduate. Doing the co-ops are amazing and they teach you so much, and it gives you confidence as well. After 4 months as an intern here, it's crazy to see how much I've grown as a developer. Just focus more on gaining work experience and enjoying the process of learning.
Yeah, great points. And finally, Kelly.
Yeah, I agree with both. I mean, I think that when we are like about to go for a new job, we're really scared, like, oh my God, what if I don't know things? So that's a lot of pressure that you put on yourself. So I agree with both of you guys that trying to be open, like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to know everything, but I should be able to learn. So all that, like the willingness to learn, to especially in this field that is such a fast evolving field that all the time there's new things coming up. So you need to be ready to try to learn something, to be proactive, and to try to solve problems. So yeah, all of that will totally help you in this tech field.
Awesome.
And if I could piggyback onto what Kelly said, I think part of that is also applying to jobs that you think you maybe aren't perfectly suited for, because the truth is we don't get any applicants that absolutely meet every single box, check every single box. And often how I actually got my job here was I applied for a business analyst role, which now is laughable because I am completely unqualified for that. But I had a really great interview. I really enjoyed the company. And 6 months later, they were hiring for a project coordinator role and actually proactively reached out to me being like, hey, we kept your resume on file. So don't be afraid to go for something that you think is a little bit out of your comfort zone, because you just never know the opportunities that will come from it. And also don't underestimate your skills. Even if you're really strong in one area, maybe that's the area that the company wants to prioritize. So just go for it. The worst that can happen is they say no and you have some more interview experience.
Those are all great points. And I loved the piggyback addition, Claire. We really appreciate that as well. Just in light of time, I'm going to ask some of the next questions just to two of you, just to make sure that we have time for a Q&A at the end. So for my next question, it's going to be for Kelly and Claire. In your opinion, how do you think tech can become more diverse? And I will start with Kelly.
Well, I mean, tech is used everywhere, right? And users, I mean, I build stuff for end users, is everywhere as well. Like they are everywhere as well. So I feel like technology should be really diverse. Teams should be from different parts of the world. That's why I like how FISPAN is doing now. Like we have people from everywhere, from different backgrounds, that helps build a better product. That way we can have better insights about how to make a better product for end users. Because if you imagine, like, let's say that we want to build something from people from a different part of the world, but we are in the other half and we don't know anything about them, and everybody's from the same background, it will be really hard to feel to learn a lot about these end users. So that's why I feel like having people with different background, with different knowledge, different cultures, helps and enrich the product. So yeah, and I think that all companies should be able to hire more people like that from different parts of the world.
Yeah, I think those are definitely valid points. And then Claire.
Yeah, I completely agree. And kind of what we were talking about before with tech, well, it is obviously a development heavy industry. There's all different areas involved in every single tech company. So it really does start with the hiring process. And I think FISPAN has a great diversity and inclusion program that every company is kind of trained on, or every employee is trained on, and something that we definitely prioritize. So I think it has to start at the micro level. It has to start with everyone taking on that responsibility, whether that be in the hiring process or not being afraid to speak out when you see kind of things that are happening where maybe underrepresentation is going on. You know, it also starts with what you can do, which is mentor those under you and those around you to feel empowered to take on these more senior roles. You know, I work in a very client-facing position where we work with a lot of top-tier banks in the US. And it's quite astonishing the number of meetings that I'm on as the only woman. And there's really no reason for that. You know, there's a physiological reason and biological reason that the fastest sprinter on the planet is a man. There's no reason where that women can't be at the same table and in the same meetings, certainly in our industry and across most other industries as well. So it's really taking a personal responsibility to make sure that you're doing all that you can to kind of foster that diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, I completely agree with all those points. And I think that it's important that we're all at the table at the end of the day. Awesome. So for my next question, it is for Kelly and Jenna. So what do you see for the future of tech? And I'll start with Jenna.
Sure. I think given that every industry is becoming digital, almost every company is heading towards being like a tech company. I think that's motivating itself. Also, which I find really cool now, is that coding is starting to become part of the curriculum in elementary schools. So children are being exposed to this at a young age, which is great. I wasn't exposed to tech or coding until university. So the fact that children are being exposed at an early age, both boys and girls, I think will definitely help towards fair gender representation within the tech industry in the future.
Awesome. Those are great points. And Kelly?
Well, I think tech will be more focused on like contextual computer. We will see more Alexas, more Siris in our lives. But what I would really like to see is more people to be able to be connected. Right now, we have like 40% of the population that it doesn't have access to internet. So what I would like to see is technology to be focused on getting to everyone. That way we can reduce the gap, the digital gap that we have in the world. There's a lot of people that doesn't have access to Wi-Fi, to internet, and they don't have the opportunities that people who have access does. So I think that the way to reduce that gap is having people with equal access to information. So yeah, that I think that that's something that I would really like to see mostly for the future of tech.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that sounds like a promising future for everyone. Great. So for the next question, it's for Claire and Jenna. And how can we support women in this field? And I'll start with Claire.
Yeah, so I think it really, again, starts with you and mentoring women around you and under you. You know, as a company, we hire a lot of women. We have a lot of women on our team. And it's kind of sharing in some of the frustrations and the pains, and also how to overcome some of the obstacles that we encounter as women in this field and in this industry. And it's also taking responsibility to mentor those under you. You know, we were all starting out our careers at one point and all face different challenges. So why not kind of help people that are in that position now to overcome those barriers maybe a little bit more quickly than you did.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And Jenna?
Similar to what Claire said, I think just by having more females in the workplace as role models helps as well. Just visually seeing them lets other females know it's possible. And that's one thing I love about FISPAN is they are really great at diversity. Like seeing Claire as like a project manager and Kelly as creative director at the company, it's great to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. Having those mentors from above is always great to see from a new grad position that you can see yourself in those roles in the future. Awesome. So for my last question is for all three of you. So what would you tell your 20-year-old self? And I will start with Kelly.
I think that one of the things I would tell myself is don't be afraid to fail. Normally when we are young, we are afraid to try something new, to try, as we were mentioning earlier, to try to apply for this job because I don't feel like I have all the qualifications. I don't check all the boxes. But I think that don't be afraid to fail. I mean, you can still give it a try. If it doesn't happen, you can learn from that. So there's always like if you get it, you win. If you didn't get it and you learn something, you already win as well. So I will say that, yeah, don't be afraid to fail. Never stop learning. And something that I would love to have learned earlier in my life is about investing and finance. I learned it like later. But yeah, those three things I think that are really important to learn when you're still really young. And yeah, that was probably what I would tell myself.
Yeah, those are definitely three really important points. And I'll jump to Jenna.
Pretty much exactly what Kelly said is don't be afraid to fail. That's normal. And every time you fail, like you said, you're just one step closer to your goal. Before I got hired at FISPAN, I had a lot of bad interviews that didn't go well, but every time I did learn a new skill, and for the FISPAN one, it went a little bit better. So yeah, just have more confidence in yourself, set high goals, and yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And finally, Claire.
Along the same lines, I think saying yes to every opportunity that comes your way. You just never know you know, that one networking event that you go to, or that one out for drinks with a colleague. Sometimes it's the last thing that you want to do, but it leads to opportunities or new projects or new connections. And later down the line, those only become more and more valuable. So saying yes to even things that you're like, that's really not what I want to do right now, usually leads to opportunities in the future.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for answering the questions I prepared for you this afternoon. So now I'm going to open it up for any questions that you might have for our panelists or HR team. We're going to spotlight Claudia again if you do have any questions targeted to her. And I will let the questions go for a bit, and I'll make sure to let everyone know when the last question is. And this is also just a great opportunity to stand out as a candidate if you are interested in FISPAN, if you're interested in being a co-op or a new grad. So it's a great way to get insight. So I'll open it up now for questions. You can use the raise hand feature or the Q&A, and then we can move forward with that. Yeah, Sebastian, you can go. I think I have allowed you to speak now.
Hey, first I wanted to thank you for the great presentation. It was amazing. And I wanted to ask Kelly, when you say you wish when you were younger you invested in finance, could you just elaborate on that and what you mean by this?
It's just more like learning more about investing, like how can I make my money work for me. So it's like for example, I'm from Colombia, and in Colombia, well, in that time I didn't learn anything about how to save money or how to invest money or how to anything about money in school. I don't know how it works here, but I feel like learning that in an early stage of your life, it will help you a lot in the future. So that's why I think like I would have loved to learn that earlier. Now I'm learning more as a here in FISPAN and learning every day. But I wish I learned that like before like really early. So yeah.
Awesome. We did have a question earlier in the chat asking what's the best way to answer a question that you don't know the answer to. So if any of you want to jump in on that, you can, and we can circle around, or if just one person wants to answer it, that's great. But if anyone wants to offer up now, you can go ahead.
I can try. I'm assuming that's meaning in the interview process.
Yes.
So my first advice would be, if there's a portion of the question that you're not sure about or you just need clarity, don't be afraid to ask. It's very possible the interviewer asked a poor question. So don't be afraid to kind of call them out on that. And the second is admit that you don't know. You know, say, I'm not quite sure about this particular question. However, if I want to think through it a little bit, I would go through the process of X and then go through the process of Y, and kind of just elaborate on your thought process. Because again, what the interviewer is really looking for is for you to express yourself, how you work, what your communication style is, and less about you nailing the perfect answer.
Awesome. And then we did have another question that asked, how big of a role were grades in university when you applied to these jobs? They said that their grades weren't the best, but they have the passion and the work ethic, and they want to know how important it is. Jenna or Kelly, do you have any insight on those?
Yeah, for all the interviews I did, grades were never considered. They just wanted to know what your qualifications were, and then there were a couple of them had technical coding questions, but overall, yeah, none of them actually looked at grades from my experience.
Yeah, I would say the same. When I was applying for jobs, grades didn't matter. And when I actually look for portfolios and I look for resumes for candidates, I really don't care if this person has like the straight A's or this honor or whatever. I don't really care about that. I sometimes even having a diploma doesn't even matter as long as you have the skills and you have the passion for it. Grades doesn't matter, at least for me.
And just to add on to that, I have seen jobs where they do say, oh, 3.0 GPA or 3.5. Still apply. Like Claire said before, there's tons of check marks. You don't have to have all of them. You never know. So still apply, even if they do say a grade requirement.
Awesome. We have another question too. So coming from a non-tech background, what kind of projects, personal or academic, can one undertake and eventually showcase on their resume to highlight their strengths and passion to grow in FinTech? So maybe Claire, since you don't have the same technical background, you can speak on that.
I can definitely take that one. So it's really highlighting how your previous experience or projects apply to the general area you're applying for. So if you don't have tech experience, I'm going to assume that you're maybe not applying for a developer role, but you might be applying for a project management role or a design role or anything of the sort. And really the tech context that myself and Kelly work in is more that we're applying a skill set to the tech industry. So applying or promoting the different experiences and projects that you've worked on that could be then applied to the tech industry is how I would position it. In terms of your specific question, which I think is what kind of projects and what kind of initiatives, certainly depends on the job that you're applying for. For specific design jobs, we typically request a portfolio, but for delivery or project management, it's really anything from if you led a student council, if you planned an event, if you did a case competition, anything of that sort, and really tailoring it to what they've kind of put in the job posting would be my recommendation.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a great point. We have a question catered more towards Jenna. But what would you recommend for somebody looking to get into this into software development with an unrelated undergraduate degree? Is formal training required or is self-taught technical competency enough?
That's a good question. You do, of course, need some technical training. Like I would say for my bachelor's degree, the 2-year, the Bachelor of Computer Science, there was probably about 5 courses that I really needed to gain the technical knowledge. So you don't need to get necessarily a diploma or a degree, but you do need to enroll. And there's like a bunch of programs. I know, like, BCIT has just regular courses that teach you like just the fundamentals of coding. If you can gain those skills there first and then learn the skills on your own, YouTube, there's so many other resources. And again, making personal projects. If you're able to do that, you're great. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. And we do have somebody else with their hand raised. So Elizabeth, I'm going to allow you to talk. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just, Claire had mentioned something in the panel that I found really interesting. And it was when you said that saying like yes to an opportunity to maybe like go to a out for drinks or something like that can lead you somewhere. You never know. And I was wondering if you or Jenna or Kelly or anyone has ever had an experience like that before.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I remember before I was still international student here, and I never met about FISPAN, never heard about FISPAN or anything. And I remember a friend told me like, hey, we should go to this women hack event. I didn't really want to go. I was like, oh, I'm tired of like applying. I'm tired of doing all of that. But anyways, like, okay, let's go. I say yes. And in that event, I met Lisa and Val. And so yeah, that yes to that event totally changed the course of my life. I mean, it's been, I think that was like 3 years ago. And I'm glad that I said yes to go to that event. And I'm glad that I went ahead and I said like, okay, I remember that Lisa spoke that day and I was, okay, I'm gonna talk to them. I know that they are not looking for designer or anything, but I'm just gonna go and talk to them. And I did. I gave them my resume, even though they weren't looking for designer, UX, or anything like that. But it worked out. So I took like the chance. I say, yes, I'm gonna try to see what happens. If it doesn't happen, well, next time then. But it did work out for me. So yeah, I agree with Claire. Like, try to say yes to the opportunities that you have.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I can add
Oh, sorry.
So similarly, you know, when I was applying for my job at FISPAN, I had heard that it was much easier to get a job through kind of personal connections than through just submitting your resume. And so I was trying to do 5 coffee dates a week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And throughout the course of that process, I got into the interview process with 5 different companies, and every one of those coffee dates was properly terrible. I don't like talking to new people necessarily. It's very awkward. You feel like you're there for one reason, which is very self-serving to get a job. But really, once you go through a few, you realize that people are more than happy to meet with you. People are more than happy to share their experience about how they got to where they are today. And it's often two-sided. There is a lot to learn from anyone. And so the more coffee dates that I went on, the more I was a bit more comfortable with it. And I think, you know, that helped me actually land my job before FISPAN, but also helped me maintain some professional connections that I still maintain today and still meet for coffee with today. So it's worth it, I think.
Awesome. I think we can fit 2 more questions. So I have one that kind of piggybacks your answer, Claire. And somebody asked, how did you connect with those people to plan coffee dates?
Yeah, so once you start, I usually try to end every coffee date with, is there anyone else in your network that you think I should meet with? And it's pretty common for people to say yes. So it kind of becomes like a pyramid scheme, like a chain reaction. So I started the first few with just connections that I had quite close to me, coworkers, friends, family. And then from there, if every coffee date gives you one more coffee date, then you all of a sudden have a pretty full schedule. So start small and then try and ask everyone that you meet with if there's anyone else that they would recommend you chat to.
Awesome. And then for our last question, we do have someone else that has their hand raised. So Namrata, you should be allowed to unmute yourself and ask your question now.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thanks for answering my previous question about the best way to answer a question that you don't know the answer to. I think one question leading on from that is, how can you stand out in addition to your experience matching the job description during an interview?
Awesome. Who wants to take that question? Kelly?
Yeah. So I feel like well, mostly for designers, I look in the design way. Just showing your portfolio on your resume that you really like what you do. Show off your skills, like well, in coding, you have like GitLab and all this stuff. Like you can show that you do some personal projects or school projects. So I feel like you just had to show up your skills during that that application, so you can stand out from others. And if you land the interview, as we mentioned before, try to be authentic, try to be honest, and if you don't know something, just say that you don't know, but you're really willing to learn. And as long as you're really willing to learn new things, I think that will help a lot to get you where you want to be.
Awesome. Does anyone else want to add to that before we wrap up? No? Okay. Awesome. So since that was our last question, if there was something that we didn't cover or if there's any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me or anyone on the panelist on LinkedIn or emails. And again, thank you so much to Claire, Kelly, and Jenna for providing all of your insight and advice about your experiences. We really appreciate it. And we also really appreciate all the participation we had at the end and throughout the event. We love hearing from you guys and seeing all of you involved. And we hope to see you at our next Women in FinTech event. So thank you so much for joining. And again, follow up with anything. And Gurpreet did send our career page if you do want to look at any of the open positions we have. But thank you so much. And I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.